Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Batman the Caped Crusader has, needless to say, been a bit of a disappointment. Most of the fans out there sitting somewhere around a 54 to 55% audience score over there on Rotten Tomatoes. It's just not going over very well whatsoever. And it turns out we now know a lot of the reasons why. Because Bruce Timm, the creator behind one of the creators behind the original Batman the Animated Series, one of the geniuses, or at least we thought was geniuses, behind all of that kind of stuff, has flat out come out and admitted that a lot of the race swapping, gender swapping, and a bunch of the other nonsense he's done is because he's just a lazy writer and can't actually come up with anything kind of original. And considering this is a guy partially responsible for the creation of one of Batman's female villains, Harley Quinn, and for the fact that he completely and totally ignores the vast swath of the rogues gallery that is the female section of Batman villains, shows you that not only is a lazy writer who wants to do no research whatsoever into anything he's actually working on, it also shows you that he simply didn't care. And it's really funny the fact that we've learned about that as well, because there's an interview from him for not too long ago where he flat out admitted he had no desire whatsoever and interest in this show because he knows it would never be able to live up to the Batman the Animated Series and would always be compared. So what do they decide to do instead? They decide to make nothing more than a check-boxing insanity drivel mess that, of course, Amazon lapped up so willingly because of all of their diversity requirements, and it checked all of those boxes while Zaslav was like, hey, get this the hell out of here. And boys and girls, we've got it straight from the horse's mouth that he admits he is just a lazy individual with no creative talent left in his body whatsoever, because this ignoramus right here decides to say Bruce Timm explains why he gender swapped Penguins and Batman Caped Crusader. There's a lack of good villains. Now he's specifically referencing female villains, and of course there's a quote coming from him right after this that shows that, but Batman lacks good villains. One of the most famous rogues galleries you have ever seen in the history of superheroes. Clayface, Joker, obviously a Penguin, Mr. Freeze, but oh, boys and girls, those wouldn't checkbox all of the diversity requirements, now would they? And of course, at the end of the day, we know they do this just for the intent of destroying, dividing, and upsetting the fans. So for any of you out there that actually for some reason have enjoyed this show, understand this. Everything we are about to explain and show the absolute lazy and pathetic attempt that Bruce Timm made at this show was nothing more than to divide you and give you an excuse to try to defend what you would actually go back and look through legitimate glasses as an absolute abomination and a drivel of a show. Understand, whether you liked the show or not, this was done for the sake of checking boxes. Don't believe me? Stick around. I have all of the quotes that will prove it directly from the horse's mouth and people involved in this very show. So we're going to get into this whole article. We'll break down it all and show you exactly why they did this and why it proves they are lazy. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because boys and girls, we're inching closer to 900 on Rumble and we're almost to 1,200 on YouTube, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, if you want to help out the channel and you're already subscribed, or if you want to leave us your thoughts down below, make sure you check out the comment section and let us know what you think about all of this, and also if you ended up watching the show and what you thought about it, because at the end of the day, all opinions are welcome around here. Just don't get butthurt if somebody pushes back against you. So from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet John F. Trent, Bruce Timm explains why he gender swapped Penguin in Batman Caped Crusader. There's a lack of good villains. Now that line, of course, doesn't make much sense out of the context of that, because, well, if he lacked good villains, then why did you use Penguin? Bruce Timm is the showrunner, right? The guy completely and totally charged of this abomination for Batman Caped Crusader. Recently explained why he gender swapped Penguin in the show. In an interview with the Emmys, Timm and executive producer James Tucker were asked by Christine Champagne, "I literally clapped when I saw that Penguin is a woman. I clapped like a retarded seal." Because that's all it takes for these people. And I hope you're smart enough out there for this not to be one of you, for you not to just be a clapping seal and think that you have to like this, much like this moron Christine Champagne clearly does. That's all it took for her. Yeah, you gender swapped the Batman villain. Yeah, I can't wait to watch all the pissed off and the guys out there, all the white guys pissed off and Literally, that's all it took for her. And to hear she was voiced by Minnie Driver. I literally clapped. It was unexpected and wonderful surprise. Trust me, it wasn't unexpected for any of us that had actually been paying attention to this abomination. We kind of already figured this out, wasn't they, what they did to Harley Quinn. Why did you make that choice? So from the horse's mouth himself, James and I were talking about the overview of the show, and we said one of the problems with Batman, as he is there's a lack of good villains. You've got Catwoman, you've got Poison Ivy, you've got Harley Quinn, but it'd be really good to have more female villains. Oh, really? You lazy ignoramus. Batman doesn't have a bunch of good female villains? Well, I don't need to list them off for you, ladies and gentlemen, because our dear sweet friends over at Bleeding Fool, by all means, go follow them on Twitter. Go check out their website, because Bleeding Fool decides to put this down here right now. Bruce Timm has clearly never heard of Talia al Ghul, Roxy Rocket, White Rabbit, Lynx, Killer Frost, Shiva, Sophia Falcone, Nisa Racken, Phantasma, Bruna DeLello, Dent Magpie, Red Claw, or Lady Claw. And those aren't even the obvious ones. The ones that he pointed out. And I mean, seriously? Talia al Ghul? She was literally in the Batman the Animated Series you ran! Are you so old and dementia-ridden at this point that not only you could be president of the United States, but you could also forget the characters you used in your own show? But of course, bringing Talia back would mean involving more actual Batman. Unless you decide to just turn her into a lesbian like what you've done to everything else, including our dear sweet Harley Quinn, who has no connection to the Joker anymore. Yeah, he has no problem sacrificing his own creations on the altar of identity politics. What did you think he'd do to all of the ones he had nothing to do with? That he's just using because he got a licensed IP that he can just do whatever he wants with. He said, and off the top of my head, I said, we never really could figure out exactly what to do with the Penguin, what the gimmick for the Penguin would be. What if we gender flipped the Penguin? Wait, so his sex with the genitalia between his legs of the Penguin, a character who you don't even want to think about having relations to begin with, all of a sudden works so much better as a female? When we said maybe we can gender flop Penguin, I just got this flood of ideas. I was thinking of Marlene Dirch and her tuxedo and Cabaret the musical and the art form of cabaret. And then I just started drawing. I instantly got a flood of ideas. Also, I was thinking a little bit of Harvey Feinstein and Hairspray and Divine. It was just like I knew it instantly what it could be. Notice how he literally references nothing from a comic book. It's literally nothing more than a bunch of musicals and all of these other generally things that, hate to tell you, are the most popular among a specific segment of the population. Trust me, highly more popular with them than they are on average with everybody else. And you wonder why this is their first instinct. They couldn't come up with any good ideas with Penguin, a character with decades of history and stories and backstories that they could have tapped from, that they could have looked into, that they could have read into. No, the only way these ignoramus, lazy writers could pull a single idea out of their ass, well, first they had to gender swap them. And then, of course, turn them into something that's completely not Penguin. Do any of these things scream Oswald Cobblepot to you? No, I didn't think so. That was the mission statement for the show in general. Do something that harkened back to the original, but flip it. Oh, yes. That was their intent from the beginning. Make it look like a facsimile, a fake, weak interpretation of what you originally did, which I think might still be on my desk over here somewhere. No, it's in the bookshelf behind me. The Batman the Animated Series. I've got it on Blu-ray. It's right here. Because this looks just like it. And that was the trick they wanted to pull. Bring back all your nostalgia. See the trailers. See all that kind of stuff. Doesn't it look the same? Doesn't it feel the same? Like obviously missing Kevin Conroy and the Joker. But we've got Harley Quinn. That has nothing to do with the Joker, who is now something completely different, and a lesbian. And we gender swapped Oswald Cobblepot. Yeah, we really flipped it. We've seen the live action and animated versions of Batman on TV. So notice how their goal was never to honor the source material or respect the fans. No, they wanted to take what you loved, what you grew up on it, and flip it. They wanted to flip it. And notice how this moron could not come up with any original ideas unless they started with gender swapping the character. How lazy and pathetic is that? That's what you need to take for inspiration? I hate to tell you, I don't think your inspiration comes from a very divine place. I think it might come from a very hot place. I'm just putting that out there. And based on the audience reception of like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, well, I think we know how that panned out. Go woke, go broke. Actress Minnie Driver, who voiced the gender swap character, previously explained what the character was gender swap, telling Variety if it hadn't been so beautifully imagined or reimagined, it would just somehow be shoehorned into a tick box or some. Oh, we know the fluidity around characters. That's not it. The essence of the Penguin is still the essence of the Penguin. She's properly evil, she does some terrible things, and I hope she'll be embraced as the villain she's always been. If she's still quintessentially Penguin, then why did you have to gender swap the character? Why did you have to make it a female instead of a male if it's just Penguin? Well, clearly you just admitted in your own thing by saying you weren't trying to check a tick box, but you actually did just check a tick box by doing nothing more than changing the gender because you said it's still exactly the same Penguin, just with their gender swapped. And then that lovely little thing I talked to you about how Bruce Timm was just lazy and had no desire whatsoever to even work in this show. That little thing that I teased at the beginning. Yeah. This is pretty interesting because in an interview, Timm said, well, I kind of blame this show on James because my bosses were interested in going back and revisiting Batman the Animated Series. They pitched it to me and I was like, I am so not interested. I didn't want to have to compete with everybody's memory of that show because a lot of people grew up with it and that's their favorite version of Batman, which is awesome. Yes, it is, which is all of those people, all of that built-in IP, all that built-in love for the original animated series is exactly what you were banking on. For these people to come in and watch your show, and maybe you specifically, Tim, weren't banking on that, but the marketing team was, which is actually why the art style looks almost identical to the original. But he never wanted it. He never wanted to do this in any way whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, they got to find out that they were going to get to race swap and gender swap and do every other abominable bastardization they could do to the incredible legacy and the memory of Batman the Animated Series. They literally, a great series that we all know and loved, they took it off the shelf and they decided to just shove as much of their diversity and inclusivity as they could right up its ass and try to make it walk around and talk just like the one of them. And they even admit they're lazy and didn't do their research because they claim Batman has no good female villains. They claim that the only way that they could get inspiration for the Penguin was to gender swap them. That is the most pathetic and lazy excuses I have ever heard in my life. There was decades almost a century at this point of lore that you can pull from Batman and all of his villains to give you inspiration. But that's okay, because we know that if you want inspiration, the only place you look is down. And that's generally at your genitalia. Although I'd imagine that really is actually you peering even farther down into the depths of hell, which is exactly where you got your inspiration to bastardize, destroy, and absolutely eliminate any goodwill or good faith you had with a single Batman fan on the planet by putting out the abomination that is Batman the Caped Crusader. How dare you do this to Oswald Cobblepot? How dare you do this to Dr. Harley Quinzel? And how dare you betray every fan that ever for once respected you or had any kind, gave you any kind of credit for any kind of genius. Because now, with this, you have proven whether or not you were once a genius at the time, you are nothing more than a shadow and a shell of yourself that will sell out and sacrifice your own legacy for a paycheck. And so you get a pat on the back at the cocktail parties from all of your woke, dumbass friends. Well, enjoy it, Bruce Timm. Enjoy the pats on the back. Because guess what? Your woke bucks don't pay the bills. The audience and the fans do. So how about this? Don't ever touch Batman again. Because I would give you an opportunity to actually listen to us, but I don't trust you anymore. And you've earned that, Bruce Timm. Batman the Caped Crusader is an abomination. It has failed with the audiences and is going to cost Amazon hundreds of millions of dollars. And guess what, Bruce Timm? It's all your fault. You did it to yourself, and you get exactly what you deserve.